Welcome back to News Center. I just want to straight away get into that conversation on women in tech. And like I had initially said, in studio with me, I have Adega Murbe Onyango. She's a Regional Marketing Manager, Africa for Bolt. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you for having me this morning, Fateh.
Right, let's start off with how's been your experience in the tech field?
Well, it's been an interesting one and a journey for myself. Considering that I'm generally from a non-tech background and I'm within marketing, it's been quite a transition. The tech field can be quite demanding, and the perception is that you have to have some sort of technical background, computer sciences or programming with it. But the advice I have for people out there is that there are actually other roles within the tech environment that are supporting roles like marketing, sales, legal and finance that don't necessarily need you to have a technical background.
Right. Being in the tech field, how many women have you seen present there or working in this particular space?
With the Bolt environment, and I'm going to use Bolt as an example, is I think as a company, we've been very intentional in hiring the right kind of candidates, especially for women. And within the last few years, we've had a lot of women growing, especially into senior leadership roles. The current country manager in Kenya actually is a woman, and that's the first in Africa. The head of HR in Africa is actually a woman. The director for rides in Africa is actually a woman. So we've been very intentional, getting women that are good at what they do and for the merit and getting them on board.
What is, I mean, I'm a woman also, of course, but what is so special about women getting into these spaces?
Women are different. We are intuitive, we are creative, we are organized and planned. I guess you want that, that difference when you're planning a team, and it's always important to have a mix and match in your team, both in terms of gender, age, race, so that you have the right product fit for your markets. You don't want to have only one representation, because you might end up missing when you're trying to create your products or designing your services for your customers at the end of the day. So we bring in that little edge, and that is very, very important in any team. And yeah, you need to get in more women around.
How does the criteria for the ideal candidate look like if someone wants to get into this space, even as a woman? Are there specific things that you need to have done or have on the table at least?
All right, so there are very many roles when it comes to tech. Tech is a very broad industry altogether. You have your specialized roles, that's engineering, the developers, and everyone who studies computer sciences and stuff like that. And then you have the supporting roles, of course, people like me in marketing, and the legal roles, the finance roles, and all that. I would say, especially from a marketing point of view, I would say it's important to know what's new. You must always embark on looking into the trends. The digital world and the tech world is the future, and it's only growing. You must always intentionally go out there and make yourself available and learning and immersing yourself in the knowledge of what's out there. And then you come into the tech world, you'll be able to implement it properly. Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you've seen in this particular space?
Again, looking at myself, I think for myself, when I first joined in the organization, I remember trying to, to get the work-life balance. It can be very demanding. You're working round the clock, you're creating, you're designing round the clock, and it can be quite demanding, especially for women with families, right? But I quickly, got into the bandwagon, and I managed to play my strong suits, which are organization and planning, and I managed to actually balance my time. But that can really take a bit of your time trying to do that work-life balance. Some of the challenges are also I've seen. There's lack of representation and participation by women. So the tech field is dominated by men, and I think it boils down to when we're younger, when we're kids, how do we gravitate? As girls, we tend to gravitate more towards the creative arts and the arts, and boys tend to gravitate more towards the sciences, right? So I think where we are, and as a mom myself, what I do is I intentionally, for example, with my daughters, I intentionally, help them choose like some of the STEM exercises and STEM work whenever they, whenever they show interest in it. I've enrolled them in things like coding. I think in like the next 10 years, coding will probably be a life skill that you must have, in an industry that is growing enormously and so fast. You want to be part of it. You don't want to be left out of it. So those are some of the challenges. And for companies, you have to be so intentional right? You have to be intentional in your hiring. Who are you hiring? Why are you hiring them? You know, you want a diverse pool of staff if you want them to represent your customers. At Bolt, our customers are not only men. We have a pool of both men and women. We have a pool of young and old. So we try to represent that in our own organization.
Right. Of course, you know, it's a social problem sometimes, the way someone is brought up, especially girls. Like you said, you tend to get into the arts. We've talked about the challenges. Now, what about some of the success stories now when it comes to women in this field?
Yeah. So there have been a lot of success stories. And I think within the last 3 years, I've seen a lot of improvements. There's been a lot of investment with accelerators and innovation hubs. We have companies like Google. We have companies like recently, I think Standard Chartered had their 7th or 5th cohort of women in tech innovation, where they're actually funding women who are interested or have businesses around the tech field. So there's been a lot of intention around that, which I think is absolutely amazing, because you're creating those opportunities. It's one thing to have an idea, and then it's another thing to find the funding to get your idea to go up or to grow, for example. So they're providing resources for that. That's very, very important. And to bring it back home to Bolt, we have a program. And our program is Women in Tech. It's an internship program, and we actually have it once a year around the seasons of March and April, where we go out there and we get interns to enroll, and we bring you into the system in our organization and take you around to learn the various, you know, aspects and departments within the department. Then, you know, the idea is to help to get you to spark that interest, you know. And our program is actually tiered towards ladies, women in particular, because we want you to have that interest. Yeah, the only way to have that interest is to bring you on board. See what it's like. Are you interested in marketing? Are you interested in engineering, for example? You know, those are particular fields that are mostly male dominated. Yet we have women that are capable and they're able, you know, but they probably don't know where to begin. So we do that, and it's important for us to always be a leader in that particular area.
Are there many women then applying for these internships? Do you actually get to see so many, or people, you know, women are still backing off from this particular field?
They are. It is a lot. Actually, this is our 3rd cohort. And when we started out, we had, it's in the hundreds, right? And we were only recruiting for about 3 interns. Right now, this particular season, we have 20 slots across 4 countries: Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, and Ghana. And we receive thousands of applications. And our aim is to keep growing. We want them to get quality, and that's why we don't bring in so many interns, because the whole experience is for them to come in, attached to some of them leadership, some of the management. And, you know, we're a company that's diverse. So we have teams in Europe, teams in Africa, across. So we expose them to as many sections as possible so that they can spark that interest.
How long is that internship program?
So once an intern comes on board and we manage to find a placing for them, we actually run it for about 3 months. When we started out, it was a 1-month program, and realized we need to stretch it out. So we ran it for about 3 months, which coincides with their, you know, most of the time they have to go back to school. So it gives them a good amount of time to stay in with us.
Once the intern comes in and has learned these few things that you're talking about, even for you as a woman, what would you like to see them be out of that particular space? Or what skills do you want to see them have at the end of the day?
So I would like them to be interested in coming to make a difference, first and foremost, right? I like to see someone who comes in and they're intentional. Again, I like to use that word, intentional, because you come in, you want to, you know, to position yourself with the right people. You want to come in and learn. You have to have an open mind. You have to be ready to learn, right? You're coming in as baby completely. You don't know anything apart from what you've studied in your education. What you apply in your work life is very, very different. So you have to have an open mind, come in to learn, and have a good positive attitude. I think attitude makes up for everything. You'll be able to find the right fitting and fit into the culture of the business.
Right. Is the internship paid or unpaid? Because a lot of the times when you start an internship, it is unpaid.
Yeah.
What about
it's a paid internship.
It's a paid internship.
And we treat our interns well. We give you the workload. I mean, you're an intern. You get the workload, the exposure.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You'll get a lot of exposure, and you'll meet a diverse and exciting team of people.
You've talked about them being in different countries,
yes.
right? So do they come to Nairobi, once they get internship, or they're at the board stations in those specific countries?
So as of the program right now, we have interns, we recruit for particular countries. So in Nigeria, we recruit interns in Nigeria, South Africa, same, in Kenya, the same. So we keep it that way. But who knows, in future, we could consider, movement. We do also have success stories with our internship program, where when we have openings, we have some of our interns who get on board into the business, which is also a very important thing, right? At the end of the day, and those have been some success stories for us.
Right. One of the things that I read about you, you're very passionate about mentoring. As a woman. Have you, just give us examples practically of women you've mentored and your experience?
So I'm an on-the-go mentor and coach. When I work with my team, I like to mentor you as you go, right? Versus, getting you out there and just, narrowing down to you. And what I mean is that every single day when we work together, I will give you the advice, I'll allow you to take the leadership for that. And that is important to me because that is how I learned. That was my best lessons, my best teacher on ground, and I managed to grasp things a lot faster. So that's how I get it done. And I'm mostly passionate about young women and young ladies out there because it's important to get good kind of advice, good kind of leadership, good kind of mentorship when you're starting in your work life and even trying to go into your work life. I mean, it's not always about the education. The education is a plus. You need your academics, you need your know-how, you need your experience, but getting the right mentors always helps you to put that into perspective and move it to the right direction.
If I could ask maybe something that's a bit controversial, a lot of the times you hear that sometimes women don't support other women in coming up. Is it the same in the tech field?
On my experience, I've been very fortunate. Right? And I've had both male and female bosses and leaders before. And I think it's just how we approach it. I wouldn't say it's difficult per se. I would say it's we're more critical, right? As women, we're more critical, at least based on my experience. With my male bosses, it's all about, are you delivering it? What are you delivering it? Is it done on time? Is it done well? You know? And with my female bosses, it's all about the quality, the timing. They're more critical about it. And the more, it's an expansive thing. So that's been my experience between the two. I wouldn't think it's negative because as I've grown and become matured in my career, I look at it as a learning experience and I try to apply the same as I'm mentoring and I'm leading others.
But if a girl is in that position, what should she do?
Well, I mean, we have systems in place. First and foremost, when I talk to people, when you start to work, you must always understand your HR laws. Law of the house, what does your HR policy state? Do you know what to do in case you are harassed as a girl? What do you do? Who do you go to? Do you know what to do in case you see something that is illegal, a situation of integrity? What do you do? You know, a lot of people don't know much about those policies. It's important. We only care about what are we paying, my leave days, the basics, But those things are important because if you're caught in that situation, how do you go about it, right? I always open myself to talking to young girls, even when I'm in the office, though whether they report to me or not. And I always say, if you have a situation, come and report it to me. Let me know what's going on. And then we work through the system to get you the right safety that you require. So I always say, first and foremost, try and not put yourself in that position. And again, that's a very broad way of looking at it because sometimes, and in most cases, you don't request for it, it just happens. But use the reporting, know your reporting lines, follow your reporting lines in case you have any situation so that you can have it escalated. Right,
finally, just to wrap up, if someone wants to apply for now the Bolt internship, what's the right way to go?
So this particular cohort for this year is actually already closed. Next year, we'll open one around March. And when we open it, we'll be out there. You'll see it in communication everywhere. You go on board. We have a link. You go into the link and you sign up for it. So we receive a lot of applications. This is the difference. We're not looking for anyone necessarily within a tech background or computer sciences, as I said before. Whether you have a marketing background, whether you have a business background, whether you have medical background, if you're interested in understanding how the tech world works, this is an opportunity for you. Apply. We will do the shortlisting behind. We work with a broad number of teams from our headquarters and also within the countries to actually do the recruitment to bring you on board.
Okay, maybe now your final parting shot in terms of just empowering someone who's watching right now.
Right. I encourage a lot of women out there to join into the tech world. And this is what I think, especially for us who are with a non-tech background, there's so many opportunities and for you to actually make a difference. When you have the experience, where do you want to apply it? The tech is the future, right? You don't want to miss on this bandwagon. This is where all the big jobs are coming from. This is where all the opportunities are going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is Adega Murbe Onyango. She's the Regional Marketing Manager for Africa Board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap for News Center. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Fatia Noor. Have a lovely morning ahead.